you. Thank you for joining us. I think we're starting with the video.
Really down, I just want to be alone, but Will to Survive shows me that I have to come out and be surrounded by people who care.
Confusing thoughts in my head.
This show is about hope, and if we can help one person realize they are loved and that they are worthy of being on this earth, then the show will be worth it.
College applications, graduate convocations, I need a vacation. Never feel good enough, I'm a loser, not normal, a loser. Wish I was smarter.
Wish I was hotter.
Invisible to everyone, they think I'm a loser, not normal, a loser.
This show is about reconnecting with an old friend and making sure his story is told.
Because my friend, you are the best. You are the best.
Stars do you think are up there?
Oh, I haven't a clue. There are way too many to count.
Why do people always say you should wish upon a star?
Well, I guess you have to send your wishes somewhere, don't you?
It's amazing for me to be a part of it and to do it for her and for all the other people struggling out there with these similar issues.
A thin thread that holds me close to you.
It was her son that had committed suicide, and for her to be able to get on stage with all of us and trust us to deliver that message.
Wish I could be a pilot and fly forever until I find a place where my dreams are real. I want toys. I want to make noise.
Honestly, there is hope for people who feel these ways. I felt this way, and the show has given me hope.
I love you.
You do?
I love you.
This show to me means hope. It means relating to others and knowing that someone is there for you.
Suicide prevention, I mean, if we can get to one person, it can be everyone, and it potentially could be mind-blowingly amazing for Virginia, for America, for the world.
Thank you. So this musical was composed and completely written by Tom Sweitzer, who he's going to talk about it a little bit later. It actually premiered, it did. It premiered here at the Kennedy Center. When was that? 2016. Okay. And it's something that we sort of feel should be at every school. It's all about kind of coming out and talking about these things and reducing stigma. So the world, I've just been appointed ambassador, the World Health Organization. I'm a Goodwill ambassador now, which is exciting. It gives me an increased platform to continue to be an advocate for the intersection of arts and health, which has become a real passion. I love that in 1947, they wrote, this is their constitution, health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Chapeau. I mean, that could have been written right now, right? Because Dr. Tedros, who's the Director General of the World Health Organization, when I met with him for a morning a couple months ago, he said he's incredibly concerned. Across the world, levels of depression have risen 30%. So this is something that we all can talk about today and work on. So we're going to start by introducing everybody, allowing them to introduce themselves. So we'll start with Tracie Jenkins. Go ahead. Each of them will tell us who they are and what they do.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I am Tracie Jenkins, also known as Tracie Jade, and I'm the former Director of Arts at the Duke Ellington School of the Arts here in DC. And I am currently the executive director of the Boris Lawrence Henson Foundation, which was founded by actress advocate Taraji P. Henson. The work that we do is to eradicate the stigma around mental health in the Black community. We are all over the country, so we're in different districts, be it art schools or schools that have the arts present. We look to sort of uncover and give tools to young people to self-regulate. We think one of the issues we're dealing with in our community specifically is that we have a very small number of therapists available to give the services needed. So how can we offer yoga, meditation, sound therapy, the arts for young people to, again, self-regulate, so we're not waiting for somebody to come in and make it all better. We want to empower them to tap into their own greatness through the arts and be able to face the challenges that they have every day.
Hi, everybody. Tom Sweitzer. Not far from DC. We're out of Loudoun County. I am the co-founder and also the creative director at A Place to Be. And our mission is we help bring hope, community, and belonging to communities through music therapy and also performance. We feel that performance is a great way for people to express themselves, especially young people, and to give them a voice. And we have seen an intense uptick, especially since COVID. Our biggest populations would be what would be classified as disabled, but we have a very different definition of disability. Our definition is anything that holds a person back from living their life to their fullest. And so I'm honored to be here, and it was great I haven't seen that myself for many years, so thank you for having us.
I'm Ellen Galinsky, and I'm the president of the Families and Work Institute. Our mission is to bring together learning and thriving. I also am working as a consultant to the federal government on youth mental health, and I've spent the last 8 years on a book on adolescence that involved 4 different studies, including 2 studies where young people told us what they want adults to know about people their age and what, if they had one wish, could improve life for people their age, among other things. And so should I wait to share that, or should I just jump in, Susan? Wait, okay.
She's also the author of Mind in the Making. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes, I'm the author of a book called Mind in the Making, and that's a lot about the skills, life and learning skills that we need to help us self-regulate, learn and thrive. And my new book is called The Breakthrough Years, and it takes that further, but it also connects it with the needs that we have to belong, to contribute, to figure out who we are, to have some autonomy, those important basic psychological needs we have.
Wonderful. My name is Jeanette McCune. I serve as the Senior Director for School and Community Programs here at the Kennedy Center, meaning I have the opportunity to support K-12 arts education programs, really centering arts education as a civil right for every young person. Public education is that great equalizer and an opportunity space to assure that every student has a comprehensive curriculum, and we know that engagement in arts and arts education provides those opportunities both for introspective work as well as for that interpersonal work. We were chatting a little earlier about those muscles that have atrophied or maybe have not had a chance to develop, and we have an opportunity at the Kennedy Center not only to focus on arts education as that experience for young people, but to help with their own development. So we support professional development for teachers as well as direct programs that serve young people. And I also have the privilege of working with Tracie as I serve as the chair for the Boris Henson Foundation.
Really wonderful. So my name is Susan Magsamen, and I am the director of the International Arts and Mind Lab, which is now a Center for Applied Neuroaesthetics at the Peterson Brain Science Institute at Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. So that's probably my whole 2 minutes. I'm also the co-director of the NeuroArts Blueprint and the co-author of a new book called Your Brain on Art, How the Arts Transform Us. And I think what I want to share with you today as it relates to this conversation is that the work that we're learning from the basic sciences, from cognitive science, from psychology, public health, all of the work, the ways of knowing about how our brains and bodies change on arts and aesthetic experiences is really becoming content and knowledge that's informing practice. And it turns out that the arts and aesthetic experiences are some of the most powerful ways to really influence mental health and well-being. And so we're really working together with science and art. It's the marriage of science and arts. And some of the things that I think we want to share today in this session is really hearing more about what do we know from a developmental perspective, what do we know from a neurobiological perspective, and how do these arts really start to not just help us cope, but help us thrive. And I think that's really the message, is that this work is definitively helping us really become our greatest selves and reach our greatest potential.
Fantastic. We're going to show us a clip of our Surgeon General Vivek Murthy speaking recently. I know everywhere I travel, people have been talking about his pronouncement about social media and youth. But let's see this video.
Okay, well, let's get on to talking about youth mental health, because so much to address there. And I know that you have given the assessment that what we're currently in is something of a youth mental health pandemic, even as we come out of the COVID pandemic. Can you unpack for us some of the challenges you're seeing at the moment when you look at what young Americans are facing in terms of their mental health?
Yeah, I'm deeply worried, Paige, about the mental health of young people in America right now. We're in the midst of a crisis, and we have been for many years, even though it hasn't always made the headlines or been top of mind for people. But what COVID did is it really pulled back the curtain on just how severe the mental health epidemic is in the United States, particularly among youth. And there are three numbers, Paige, that always stick in my head. One is the number 11. That's the number of years it takes on average for a child to receive treatment after developing symptoms. The second number is 57. That's a percentage increase in the suicide rate that we had among kids in the decade prior to the pandemic. And this got worse for a number of kids during the pandemic. And the other number that I remember is 42%. That's a percentage of high school students, 44%. That's a percentage of high school students who say they feel persistently sad or hopeless. And think about it, we think of high school as a time where your life is opening up for you, but nearly half of high school kids are feeling despondent about themselves and about the future. So these, to me, stick in my head because they give me a snapshot of where we are. And it's echoed by the conversations I have with young people all across the country who routinely tell me that they are struggling with anxiety or depression, many of whom also tell me that their experience of social media often leaves them feeling worse about themselves and about their friendships. And finally, I think it's important not to lose sight of the experience of parents here as well. And I say this as a dad myself. I have two small kids who are 4 and 5. And my interest in this topic of youth mental health is partly motivated by them. I think about their future. I want to make sure that they are well. But when I talk to parents across the country, they are struggling right now. They are dealing with their own anxieties and worries, whether it's about COVID, economic worries, etc. But they're also worried about their kids. And I'll tell you that one of the worst feelings that you can have as a parent is to see your kids struggling and to not be able to get them the help that they need. And that is a situation that many parents are in. With all of that said, though, Paige, the good news is we can do something about this. It does not have to be this way. And we, in fact, know much of what we have to do. We know we've got to expand access to treatment, and we know how to do that. We know that we've got to increase the workforce of people who can provide and deliver mental health care. And we know we have got to invest in prevention programs, especially that are school-based, that we know work. And finally, we've got to shift our culture around mental health as well to one that is not so imposing of this terrible stigma on mental health. It doesn't make people feel ashamed to ask for help. These are things we can do. We've already started to do. We've got to accelerate because there are millions of children who are struggling right now and they can't wait any longer.
So powerful, really powerful. And it's sparked tremendous conversation and hopefully, obviously, we need change. Ellen, do you want to talk about the study and tell us a little bit about it? And also, let us know if you want to cue your film, because he mentioned stigma in particular.
In the study that I did, we asked kids what were the most important strategies for adults to use, and there are three that that were most important. The first is listen more than you talk. The second is listen with when I was a child's mind, as well as now I'm an adult mind. And the third is if we're the problem, then we need to be part of the solution. So those are the three major points that I want to make tonight. I want to start with the words of a young woman who wrote in response to the question, what if you had one wish to improve the life of people your age, what would it be? And I just loved her words. When Susan and I were talking about this beforehand, I went right to remembering what she said. She said that she wished that her concerns were taken seriously. She said, I can't count the number of times that I've tried to talk to an adult about something that's been causing me pain, usually emotional pain, and it's easily dismissed because people say, everybody goes through it, you'll be fine. I feel that this is improper, it's disrespectful, and it's harmful. Telling me that my problems aren't really problems is simply wrong. Then she says the same kind of damage is caused, but at least you don't have, and then fill in the blank for something worse. How many times have we all said that? She said that just feels so unempowering to her. And she says the problems of teenagers are not being taken seriously. People say it's just your hormones, you'll get over it, everybody goes through it. But even if everybody goes through it, we should still be understood. And then she talks about how she's not going to let her younger brothers and sisters go through that. She said if being rebellious is making sure that they don't have to have no one to talk to, then she's going to be rebellious and be the person that they're going to talk to. In the study that I did, 21% of kids wrote in spontaneously about what they want the adults of America to know about people their age is understand us and listen and talk with us, not at us. And then they also, 38% wrote, don't stigmatize us, and you heard that too. I just pulled together some of the phrases, like we're not all TikTok talking media obsessed people. We're not all risky. The internet is not going to be the death of us. It's some of us, but not all of us. And I think when we talk about the 42% or the mental health challenges, we have to remember that it's some of us, but not all of us. And what really helps, and this is the third point that I wanted to make, what really helps is if kids are part of the solution. I think some of the most promising, like the wonderful play that you did, if kids are part of the solution, that helps them be strong. It's being a helper, not being helped, I think is what the research shows again and again and again and again and again. So if we can help kids become parts of the helpers to solve some of the things that are going on, listen to them, understand them, and then let them be helpers, I think that we will have the kind of hope that we all wish for.
And one of the things that's really interesting about the work that Ellen's doing, and hopefully you're hearing this idea of youth voices and really understanding what listening to youth means. But youth are not going to sit down and say, here's what I'm feeling, and let me tell you what I'm thinking about here, for the most part. And I see that there are some young folks in the audience, and I'm hoping that towards the end of this conversation, maybe you'll share some insights with us, because I think we really want to hear more. But the arts are an extraordinary way to express your voice, for self-expression. And so in Baltimore, we did a project called One Book, where youth read a book, several books, but one was called Long Way Down. And we asked them to express how they felt about the book through any means that they felt comfortable. Some did drawing, some did spoken word pieces, some actually put on a play, others did different types of performances, dance performances. And what we found were that peers actually could communicate and understand without that kind of verbal, cognitive, rational language. that parents really understood what the children were expressing or the youth were expressing, and that educators and other community members were able to get something at a very emotional, intuitive way. So there are many ways to communicate, I think is the message here. And so the arts are yet another way to really share how we feel in a deep and meaningful way without feeling like you're vulnerable and exposing yourself in a way that doesn't feel comfortable. So I think, that really speaks to what, Ellen, you're coming to, and there are many ways to share your voice. So,
how many of you have had an experience in your inner circle with young people who've really suffered either, from depression or eating disorders or self-harm ideation, or how many people have had that experience? Quite a few. Okay, me too. So, Tracie, I'm curious. Give us some examples of the types of arts that you would suggest for school. I think this is brilliant, by the way, because I know there aren't enough people to help. I could not find a psychiatrist in the entire city of Chicago. Using every single person that I knew, nobody would see a relative of mine, a student, and it was incredibly tragic. Tell me what you're talking about when you talk about programs.
Sure. And I would just add to that, in the Black community in particular, there's a distrust around going to talk about your problems anyway. And so to have the number of African American or those who exercise cultural humility, we'll say, to have those numbers as small as they are, even if I did want to talk, there's nobody to talk to. So we had to lean on the arts, and meditation and self-regulation modalities. For example, hip-hop therapy. So meeting kids where they are. Already they don't want to talk. We just said that, but they will rap. They'll write a good hip-hop beat for you. They'll come up with that produced music that's going to be the track for the song. So then as they begin to practice what they love to do, they don't even realize that they're talking about some topics and learning about how to attach words to emotions. We take them back to Jay-Z, for example, or Beyonce, or all the people that they love to sing to. And dismantling that, those people too had issues growing up in the hood, and this is how they learn to address them. So really meeting people, children, where they are, allowing a Socratic approach to coming up with the solution, so it doesn't feel like somebody's coming in, here's another adult telling you how to do you. They kind of know how they do them. They get off track a bit, but I think the arts sort of opens up that space where they can be creative again and really create the world that they want to see. We also say that joy is revolutionary. And so let's do a revolutionary act today. Let's create that next hip-hop song that's gonna hit the charts. And if that's what joy is revolutionary means to you, and we can sort of move through some of this language that we're afraid to talk about in a therapy session, let's do that. So that's just one example.
So, and you're actually bringing in, I love the idea of also yoga, meditation, some of these mindful things, and of course any group activity is great. I mean, I just sort of like singing together myself.
And speaking to, look, we can sing in yoga too,
Yeah, that's great.
But there is this loss of connection, which we all have heard about too, right? The loneliness and isolation that's come out of COVID. And having young people to come together to practice yoga, to be on one accord, you would be shocked to see how many children want to be quiet. They don't want to talk. They want to just experience. But they don't have the opportunity because we're rushing them into the classroom. Let's get to the notes on the page. Let's talk about the next monologue and break it down. Let's get to ballet rehearsal. Stillness is gold. And we're learning that from the kids. We've come in with all of the, let's get it, let's do it. They're like, can we just sit and breathe?
Interestingly, there's also a part of the brain called the default mode network where it goes to work when you're not bringing the world in. And it's the space where you mind wander and daydream, make connect the dots. You decide what works for you, right? And so if we never have that time to really process all the billions of data that's coming in all the time, that's so wild, we never really know who we are, which really speaks to identity and character and sort of self-agency. So that time to pause, I think, is also as important as the time to act.
I want to make meaning without that pause.
I was actually going to just also suggest that responding to and having an opportunity to process together art is a really critical piece. I remember a few years ago when we had Dear Evan Hansen, which is an incredible piece, but rather than the frenzy of bringing our young people in to just see the show and then leave, we wanted to make sure we made time afterwards for conversation. So the young people came as a group. They had an opportunity to process and talk about it, about what some of the themes and ideas conveyed, but it didn't have to be personal. And sometimes just making sure there's space for that, where there's safety and you've established that safe space, and let them lead the conversations about what is needed to address is really critical. So I have found, certainly in our work directly with young people or in supporting and coaching educators who work with young people, making sure we give them that space to address those very issues that you spoke of.
I also want to suggest, I had a really inspiring day in LA last week, and one aha moment was the idea that if you don't have enough help and if you don't have enough medical professionals, and we also know that for some of these problems, drugs are not necessarily going to work very well. They haven't been proven to be that successful. I highly suggest, for those of you also listening in TV land, that creative arts therapists, to have them in the school system, and tell us what you said when we met before about the type of training they have, the language you use.
So creative arts therapists, they work in multiple art forms. So there's music therapists, there's visual arts, there's dance therapists, there's expressive writing, but they're trained in psychosocial development. So they have a very strong psychological background. So they really understand things like executive function. They understand self-regulation, social emotional learning, identity development, and that's really important. And they're all over the world, but certainly all over the country, and are really kind of a first responder in this space right now that can be very, very helpful.
So Tom is one. Tom is a music therapist. So,
I am.
So tell us about how you developed this musicals. And by the way, he inspires me. He is a visionary in the way he incorporates actual arts and creative making with all of the people that he serves. He actually worked with an incredible young man who had a traumatic brain injury, and it's become a fabulous documentary film. It's on Amazon Prime, I think. Music Got Me Here. Yes. So try to tell us a little bit more about your work.
Yeah, thank you.
And the musical.
And you inspire me more, Reneé. Yeah, so something I wanted to say, I think when I was thinking, when we were talking about still time, I don't know how many of you out there remember when it was possible on a Saturday afternoon you would come and lie on your bed and look at the ceiling fan. I don't think that anybody lies on a bed and stares at a ceiling fan. And I think that is part of what we're missing. We don't have any of that time in between. And I'll say it like this, being a creative art therapist, music therapist, one of my places in my life where I knew how music could really be this conduit for mental health was, we had a young man come in at age 16, and he came in the hallway, and the mother came up to me and said, "Good luck. He's not going to stay in your office for more than 2 minutes. And also, he will use some pretty foul language with you when he runs out." So I, very scared, go in there, sit him across from me, and we just look at each other. And then I asked him what type of music he likes. And the mom said he's very angry. So it took about a minute, and he said, "I love Metallica. You're not going to like that." And I said, "Oh, I like everything. I'm a music therapist. I can." So we put that on. We didn't say a word to each other. And 3 minutes went by. And then there was a pause. And he was waiting for the next song. Next song came on. Now I'm so proud because we are way past 2 minutes. And his mom is probably having a coffee and being a mom. It goes on, the next song, the next song, the next song. The entire album goes by. We are looking at each other. We're banging our heads. I know he thinks I'm funny and weird at the same time. At the end, we're done. And I tell him, well, we're done. Thank you so much for coming. And he had tears at the bottom of his eyes. And I asked him, what's going on? And he said, I do not want to be the next school shooter. And he stayed with me for 2 years. He's a drummer in a band now. I worked with a team. We are not psychiatrists or psychologists. We are trained, just like you were saying. But I worked directly with his psychologist and psychiatrist, and music found him. And that was the portal. And the last thing I'll say, Ellen, what you were saying earlier about love, belonging. When we have a parent come in, a lot of our parents at A Place to Be come in because they really need and want their child to be loved. If they have autism, or they don't fit in, or they have something that's very hard for them to live a full life every day, we usually say to them, if you're coming here to be loved, let us find someone you can love. And so when we put them in their camps and we put them in their groups, we actually therapeutically put them beside somebody they can love so they can give, because it takes the giving to get.
I love this guy. That's right. I mean, he also has expanded his telehealth practice and had a fabulous large class of long COVID patients that he worked with also because he had long COVID.
I still sort of have a little bit of it. Neurologically, my brain is not the same. I unfortunately had the original coronavirus, but I'm much better. But talk about mental health. These are hundreds of people that I saw over the last many years who their lives are forever changed. So that's another, long COVID is real, and it has caused another, another population of mental health crisis.
Oh. Okay, Jeanette, tell us everything the Kennedy Center does in this space.
Wow. Well, first I have to just thank Tom for sharing that story. I'm a parent. I have 2 teenagers who struggled during COVID, including one young person who is a person with a disability, and music therapy has changed their life. So I'm just grateful for you for sharing that story. Again, wanting to be loved, wanting to be respected, and being able to give love back means so much. So I'm going to carry those words with me today. But for us at the Kennedy Center, especially our K-12 arts education programs, what we are really focused on, many may not, I brought up the image of our strategic plan because it is articulated very specifically that arts education, powerful education, is one of the pillars of what we stand for at the Kennedy Center. And these are things you can look at online, but I just wanted you to know the intentionality of what it means for powerful education for us. And so we have a mandate as the National Cultural Center to support arts education as a civil right. What we mean by that is as young people go to school, as they are engaged, we are looking for a well-rounded curriculum that connects to all of those different areas that we're talking about in terms of self-actualization, in terms of being connected to who they are. And so through our work, what we are hearing from arts education professionals and professionals in general is that their students are coming to school but need support in those areas of being able to work collaboratively and together. So imagine, school has been occurring with students at home in front of small screens, and all of a sudden we're turning the signal back on and suggesting they're going to work as a team. They're going to be able to express themselves in these varieties of ways, but without giving the tools to support that, which we know that the arts do. We are very critically being mindful of offering social emotional learning, cultural competency, and being mindful of cultural relevance in terms of the content. And cultural relevance means more than just a specific culture, but the culture of the young people that are in the space, honoring it and giving it the reverence that it deserves. So what we're doing is thinking about how can we offer our arts education opportunities to support professional learning for teachers and to assure that every student has arts education as part of their curriculum, which we believe ultimately helps them better able to feel like they have a meaningful identity, that they're valued and loved in the classroom. So we're not just looking at arts as supporting other content areas, but art for their overall development. So we're really excited. In about a week and a half, we'll have about 400 educators coming together, and one of the things that we're going to be able to do is to highlight and share examples from some of those educators who are deeply honing in on social emotional learning, so they can share that with their collaborators in other parts of the country where those opportunities may not be in place. The more that we can celebrate and uplift arts education as a way to support the development of these young people and to support their mental health and their ability to be present, the stronger we are as a country and as we are as a world. So we're really looking forward to that. And I wanted to bring just a little visual for you all. The Kennedy Center, through the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, had an opportunity to contribute to Arts for Life's sake. And there's a wonderful breadth of information concerning how the arts have been game changers for young people who have lost family members, for young people who are able to engage in wonderful programs like Tom's, to be able to express what's in their heart and what's in their mind meaningfully. But we have a responsibility as the community to invest in arts education, both in school and for those opportunities after school, to support our young people feeling healthy, loved, and belonging.
Well done, well done. Go ahead, Susan.
I was just going to say that I think you're hearing these amazing stories about programs that are so effective, and I think one of the things that we're making a case for is that the arts are as important for mental health as sleep, good nutrition, and exercise, and that it is really part of the building blocks of what mental health means. And you might think, well, yeah, this all sounds good, but there's really amazing epidemiology research, and what that means is this is research that's been done on past behavior. So there's been a number of studies that have looked at the epidemiology of youth mental health work, and what we see is that youth actually make better decisions, they stay in school longer, they have better relationships with peers, parents, and educators. They actually have more cognitive reserve, so they're able to use their brains in ways that they haven't been able to do when they're so fatigued and so depleted. And so I think we're not just talking about what is a nice to have or what might be something that is a luxury, but it's actually proving out to be the case for long-term success and for really amplifying youth potential. And there's a plethora of really wonderful research if you're interested in learning more about that.
And the book, her book was on the is still a bestseller. I mean, it's selling like crazy. We should have brought one down to show it on camera. Your Brain on Art. Yeah. Yes, just tell them briefly about the book.
Sure. So it's called Your Brain on Art, How the Arts Transform Us. And it really looks at all of the moments in our lives where the arts really can impact us, from stress, anxiety, all the way through to trauma, PTSD, physical health, learning, flourishing. We all want to flourish, and even community development. And I think probably if each of us thought for a moment about how the arts have impacted us, our families, our communities in some way, it doesn't take long to really see that through line, whether it's singing in the shower or dancing out in the driveway during COVID with your kids. And I think the more we start to bring that back into our daily practice, into our daily lives, that starts to shift in terms of prevention and protection, all the way through to intervention and really acute issues around physical and mental health.
It's not a fluke. It doesn't come from arts as entertainment. It comes from evolution. It's been with us for more than 40,000 years, much more. And so this is why it's still part of our DNA, part of how our brain functions. And this is why it's powerful. We're taking your questions now. Go ahead.
Could I just say one thing?
Yes, go ahead.
One thing that just strikes me in listening to each of you is how we're talking about these things that are almost separate. You know, we see art as separate, or we see belonging as separate, or you need wonderful programs like yours so that kids can have opportunities to feel that they belong. Well, adults need the same things that kids need. And what we really need to do is to rethink the way we're living so that we could have a world in which all of us feel we belong, all of us feel we have support, all of us feel that we're respected and have some say about our lives, and can figure out who we are and contribute to the world. All of us can learn these skills that are so important. It shouldn't be an extra. It's really because we're, one of the things we've done with the world we've created is to go against the way that we function and learn best, and we've got to bring it all back together.
Well, I just deleted my biggest news app on my phone because I'm tired of looking at it. And I miss daydreaming. All of my creative thoughts, I'm an artist, everything that I would think to program or dream up, dreaming is ceased to exist in my day because I keep looking at my phone. So you're right, we need to think about how we're living. So there's a microphone, I hope, in the middle there. And so we definitely want to hear from you. And anyone under 20 is especially welcome to tell us who you are and what we should know. Questions, comments?
While you're getting to the microphone, E.O. Wilson, the evolutionary biologist, talked a lot about this evolutionary truth. And it turns out that the oldest piece of art, this is a really good like dinner party conversation, is 226,000 years old. Think about that.
Wow.
What is it?
Right? It's in Tibet, and it is the daily life of the community. So art's really, there was never a word for art, and there still isn't in indigenous cultures because it's how you live. So it's being, and I think that's also really important. Just the word art separates us, but it's this amazing piece of art where, and of course, food is so important as an art, dance, being around a fire, telling stories, learning from each other about values and ethics and what we all share as a community. And so I love what you said, Ellen, about this idea of culture and infrastructure where it's threaded throughout everything we do.
And awe, mention awe.
Awe. Awe is such a great word. So there's
My
some
favorite
wonderful,
thing.
it is, right?
Yeah.
Awe is really, Dacker Keltner has a book out on awe right now. Dacker is at University of California, Berkeley, and he's been studying awe for 30 years. And what he has seen is that awe, and it could be in a sunrise, it could be a musical performance, it's where you feel that you're part of something bigger. And so you are part of something that you could never do on your own. And it turns out that people who are in awe are bigger risk takers. So if we're really going to change our world, you have to get out of your bubble. You have to take a risk. And so awe makes us want to be braver. I love that.
Oh, that's great. Okay, go ahead. First question or comment.
Let's see. Good afternoon. Yeah, I was coming through. Well, thank you just to all the panelists. This has really been energizing for me personally to listen to everyone's remarks. I live with PTSD every day, and music has actually been really healing for me just in my own personal and professional journey. So my question/statement, I was struggling kind of trying to frame it. Dr. Susan, you had mentioned about the default mode network and just kind of that space where the brain is not necessarily fully active and kind of in that passive mode. We're able to kind of reset. And so when I'm thinking about music design theory, and even in sense of rhythm, you actually cannot have rhythm without silence. And so what you said actually really resonated with me. So something I've been kind of daydreaming about, and this is really something I consider part of my life work I'm embarking on, is can we possibly reimagine and identify a regenerative blueprint from music design theory and ancestral wisdoms of the arts to deepen our social cohesion and post-activism. So really looking at music design theory and the arts, not necessarily from an individual perspective, but also from a larger humanity perspective. And what does that really look like when we're talking about music and motion and movement towards regeneration?
Reneé, you were talking about synchronization earlier today.
Right, so when we have a shared experience, a musical experience, our brains synchronize. It's really fascinating to me, which is why it's so much better to be in a space with other people when we're having this artistic experience. But I think the idea of creating something that's collaborative is really interesting. I think that's a fabulous path to choose. And thinking about silence and sound and how those two things collaborate, how they bump up against each other, and how they might be healing.
and across the lifespan, right? This is from little kids all the way through, and in an intergenerational way, and also bringing lots of different kinds of people together, I think is really about harmony. David Byrne did something during COVID where he did something called the Social Distance Dance Club, where he had circles of people 6 feet apart, and they played music and they sort of called dances. They weren't square dances, but they called dances, and they found that people found each other across the room and synchronized, and that they ultimately danced on their own, had their own jive, but then danced together and moved together. So even at that distance, we still desire to connect to each other in movement and rhythm.
I was going to also just mention heart entrainment, which is the same as what we're talking about with the brain synchronization. And I can remember in theater that we would do exercises where we would connect just for a moment, just to synchronize in the space and train the hearts. And you move away all the way across to the other ends of the room, backs turned, and you would have to find each other through energy again. And the amazing outcomes of that, I wish we could do that right now with everybody in this space, because you would be shocked. It's so beautiful, that language of energy that I think we've been missing for so long. And especially, as you mentioned, through the ancestral wisdom, all the traditions of all of our ancestors. My goodness, what new language could we create out of that?
Wow, inspiring, inspiring. I'm glad this is going to be on the Kennedy Center website, so we can all revisit this and utilize some of these ideas. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Cindy Pasca. First of all, thank you so much. This is a conversation that's been taking place for a while, and I think it's an incredibly valuable one and really, really important. I was listening to something this morning that said that when children are in kindergarten, there's a class full of artists. And as they get older, the number of artists in the class diminishes over time. So I know the arts are incredibly important, that they need to be included in the educational programs. But when budgets are cut, the arts tend to be at the top of the list. What's being done to stop that, and how can we help?
I think the tide is turning because of the science. We've been discussing earlier that science has really validated a lot of the things that we know kind of intuitively and intrinsically, and that's making a big difference. You want to mention something about that?
Yeah, so I think the neurobiology is really driving this conversation. You know, you're born with 100 billion neurons, and those neurons connect through synapses. Those synapses create neural pathways. Arts and aesthetic experiences are the most potent ways to create those salient experiences that really activate multiple systems in the brain and body simultaneously. And so, you know, cut to taking arts out of the schools where there is no motor movement, where there is no vocal movement. You know, we know that poetry and music light up the same part of the brain, for example, and there's many examples of this. Right now in California, there is a beautiful social experiment happening where somehow they got 1 million signatures, and they now have a ballot called Proposition 28, where $1 billion a year is going into the schools for art in California. And under-resourced communities get twice as much money as zip codes with higher incomes. And so they're trying to really figure out through this lens of the neurobiological value of the arts, how you bring the arts in. One of the mandates is 15,000 art teachers in these schools, but it's also bringing the cultural arts organizations together, the artists in the neighborhoods and the communities into these schools, teaching arts integration in the classroom, which is totally your gig, and you should talk about that. So if we can get California to really make this happen, all the other states are watching this really, really carefully, and we're seeing that kind of work in other countries is really making a difference. Street violence, gang violence, kids worried about climate, all the different types of gender concerns. These are the kinds of issues that these kids are really gravitating toward.
I think that one of the reasons that we have fewer artists as kids grow up is not just that we take away arts, but it's how we treat arts. as a way we're grading children about whether they color within the lines. And I think we need, yes, you need skills. My son is a musician, I'm a photographer. You know, my husband is a painter. You need skills in arts so that, but you also need to be able to teach in a way that enables people to keep their sense of self-expression, because at their very core, art is a self-expression, and we don't want to take that away by having it judged by, do you color within the lines?
Well, in other disciplines, we don't suggest that because you take math, you're going to be a mathematician, or that because we understand that there is inherent value in the skills that come from being involved in different art forms as well as other content areas. I think I'm really grateful that you mentioned Proposition 28. In fact, at our conference next week, and I bring this up, one of our leaders from that community is going to be talking specifically about what were the action items and the way that they worked collaboratively across the state to be able to articulate what were the needs, how was the analysis done concerning what the gaps were, and then what were the recommendations for how those funds could be used to better serve students within those communities. One resource that I would highly encourage folks to look at is artsedsearch.org. That has critical information about current research being done on arts education and its value, and it helps both practitioners as well as parents in order to be able to have the language that they need to articulate how those funds can be used, why it's valuable to their students, and be able to go on behalf in front of school boards or for voting purposes to articulate this is a need that we have to assure that arts education is available to our students. So being able to be cognizant of what the opportunities are and then be able to speak to what are our solutions that don't take away but actually contribute to the greater good for our students is a big piece.
I'm glad they're also beginning to change how young people are judged in terms of college enrollment and acceptance, because I remember being frustrated that my daughters, who had wonderful educations, but one of them in particular who wanted to creative write, she was a really gifted creative writer, she was only allowed to write essays for 4 years. And I just was so, as a parent, as an artist parent also, I was really frustrated by that. So hopefully they're looking at that kind of thing. Next question.
Hi, I wanted to say thank you so much for this. My name's Pam Saunders. I'm faculty at Georgetown University, and we are very interested in creative aging. And I'd love to hear your comments on how your work overlaps. I know Dr. Susan has done work in this area. Just would love to hear your thoughts. And just a personal reflection, I have twin teenage 16-year-old boys, and we have struggled with the anxiety and the food issues. And last summer, I got one of my sons involved in watercolor painting, and you remind me I have to do that again this summer. So thank you.
So if you just wait a second at the end, we can talk to you about creative aging. This whole thing is supposed to be about youth, but it will take me 20 minutes to just tell you what I'm doing, and they're all experts, so we'd be here for another hour. It's huge. It's really probably the biggest pillar right now in terms of what it is that we're looking at in science, also disorders of aging. So just hold that thought. Next question.
My name is Lee Woodman, and I'm a poet. I've been following NeuroArts for 2 years now, and I think what all of you are doing is just extraordinary. I grew up overseas, and my mother was a ballet dancer, my father in education, and a late-age painter. And my whole life has been dedicated to education in the arts, and I would like to help. How do I get in touch with a real person rather than try to go through a website or a phone chain? Because I really would like to help. I'm a published poet. I'm working on my 5th collection, and I just won the Independent Press Award for 2023.
Well, so my phone number.
May I get to you after the...
Yeah, definitely. And that's an open invitation to anyone here. The NeuroArts Blueprint, which I think is what you're referring to specifically, is now ready and open for business. You know, we've spent the last year really getting the infrastructure in place, and there are very dedicated milestones, including developing a resource center, community NeuroArts coalitions. We're working on something called Art Care with Reneé that really allows people to find resources more easily, general public find resources more easily, and something called an academic research network. So there's lots of opportunities to get involved, and we really see it in service of all of the professionals and people in the field that are really building this in the United States, but also around the world.
Thank you.
Okay, we want to leave you with a song from The Will to Live by Tom Sweitzer. So one last video. Thank you for joining us. I know we could all tell, each of us could easily hold a panel, and there's so much fascinating work going on. It's just expanding like crazy, and it's exciting. So Tom, tell us what we're going to see.
So this is another song from the show A Will to Survive, and this is called Pressure. This was written in 2014 and 15, and it's amazing. What they sing about is more prevalent now than it was then. And so, yeah, this is sort of like in the middle of the show. Very, very honored to have you all see this.
What is he staring at? So that. Why is my hair so thin? I need to go to the gym. Why do I have to get this thin today? Why can't I look like Beyonce? Too thin, too fat, too flat, too curvy, pale, too dark, way too hairy. Not the kind of girl that makes you go, ooh, she's hot. Too smart, dumb, too artsy, too tough, too loose, too unapproachable for you to talk to me. I know you see this is on my own. You've been staring at it for God knows how long. I should probably see your face. Don't you have anything better to do than to spend your time staring at my sweater? Keep your eyes up. Hey. You don't know me. You don't know me. You don't know me. Pressure, pressure,
Just really quickly, too, when I haven't seen it for a while, just not all of those people there, those young people, they were between 16 and 19, they weren't all music theater performers. So I think they did this show because they wanted to express themselves. And I think you don't, just like we said, you don't have to be there, we have to learn things to be an artist. But sometimes the rawness, and I guess you could feel that there, the rawness of just trying, having the opportunity to try to sing, to try to draw, to try to paint, to try to play an instrument is enough.
On that note, thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us at Millennium Stage. For more information about upcoming shows, please check out the Kennedy Center website or Facebook page. At this time, we ask that you head to the back of the seating area